Hi guys, welcome back to my channel where we talk all about books. My name is Angela and today it is time for a book haul. So recently I made a purchase, actually a huge purchase from Amazon using a gift voucher provided by my company as a Deepavali gift. And of course, I couldn't think of buying anything other than books. I thought that since I started my channel, I have never done a book haul. So this is my book haul coming your way. Most of the books in the list today are inspired from Goodread recommendations, either nominees or winners of various prizes like Man Booker Prize or Nobel Prize. Also, I have made some selections from recommendations from fellow booktubers, famous booktubers. Unfortunately, I forgot to make note of which books were recommended by which booktubers. Next time, I'm going to do a huge shout out to them. I'm really sorry about that. But without further ado, let's get into the first book. The first book is a book called A Man Called Ove. This is a book by a Swedish author called Fredrik Backman, and I've heard so much about this book from fellow booktubers and also in Goodreads. Apparently, it is charming, it is hilarious, and it's heartwarming. And I'm looking forward to reading this. This book was actually number one Swedish bestseller across Scandinavia, and it is a life-affirming, comic tale of how kindness and love can be found in the most unlikely of places. This is what one of the reviews says, and it's gonna leave you teary-eyed and also warm your heart. So this book is about a man called Ower, as you have seen here, and he is the grumpiest man you will ever encounter, and he how his life is affected by his new neighbors. This is what the synopsis says. When I read the synopsis, I wasn't that convinced, but when I saw the reviews, I was like, okay, I need to give it a go, because there are so many instances where I read some synopsis and thought that maybe this is not the book for me, and I missed out on great, amazing books because of that. And then after years, I pick it up and read it, and then I think, "Ah, what an error in judgment." So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go by reviews. I'm going to trust fellow booktubers, and I'm going to read this very soon. And also, I will post a review about it. The second book that I picked up was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is a story about a huge Hollywood icon, and she at some point in her life decides to write kind of a biography of herself, and she calls upon, or she approaches a very unknown magazine reporter called Monique Grant to write her story. While writing the story, readers get to know that Monique's life itself somehow intersects with Evelyn's story and how this goes. So this is also one of the bestsellers and favorites of many good readers. It's in the title. It's also marked that it's a book club favorites. Yeah. So yeah, why not? I'm going to read it. So the next book in the series is an adult fantasy by Robert Jackson Bennett, and it is The City of Stairs. It is book one in the trilogy The Divine Cities. Apparently, it is an amazing adult fantasy novel. The author is himself, Robert Jackson Bennett. He has won several awards for other works of his, like Edgar Award, the Shirley Jackson Award, and the Philip K. Dick Citation of Excellence. So he is an accomplished author. The City of Stairs, as such, talks about obviously a city named Bulikov, which was at one point the headquarters of uh, gods or divine protectors of the city who conquered the entire world and were ruling the world, and at some point they were destroyed, and now the city remains as a broken place where nobody lives or something like that. And then uh, somebody from one of the oppressors of the city is sent in as spy to look into the city, to understand, kind of scouting the remains of the city to ensure everything is in order. And then she finds that maybe everything is not in order, and that maybe the divine protectors are not uh, the divine protectors who were presumed dead may not be actually dead. And This is what the synopsis says. And it is an exciting spy novel mixed with elements of fantasy. Uh, Mixed with elements of fantasy, so I'm looking forward to this. Next up is this book called A Woman is No Man by Ita Rom. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. She is a debutante novelist, an Arab American voice. I really enjoy reading books by writers who are from a diverse cultural background rather than the mainstream white American or generally white European background. Uh, and also not Indian, cultural background. So, uh, because I always want to see, and understand and maybe relate to what women across cultures in the world go through. How different are we, or how similar are our problems? And this I faced the first time when I read Thousand Splendid Suns, which is such a fantastic book, and Kite Runner as well. But I love Thousand Splendid Suns better than Kite Runner. Uh, and the stories of those women from Afghanistan, I could relate to their stories, even though I did not went through similar hardships and triumphs and tribulations. I still could relate to them as women. The 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 feelings that they went through, and those both those books from Middle East are still with me. It didn't matter they were from different cultural background, or I couldn't relate to some of the things, but the human story within those were really heartwarming and heart touching. I remember crying my eyes out when I read Thousand Splendid Suns. That's how special those two books are for me. Those books are not just books, they are feelings for me, and I hope I get something similar, because most of the books that I've read from Arab region, or those backgrounds, especially warrior and backgrounds, are so heartwarming and heart touching. While I'm talking about the Arab world and the Middle East, I also want to talk about this movie called A Turtle Can Fly. Turtles Can Fly. It's an amazing movie. It's an Iranian movie. Uh, and If you get a chance, please watch it, and do not complain, or do not come back to me complaining if you are heartbroken and depressed for a week or so, because that's how I felt after watching that movie. That movie is a gem. If you get a chance, please watch it and let me know in the comments what you thought about that movie. And What I wanted to say is that most of the stories, either in the form of books or movies, that comes out of that region is so grounded and so real that you feel for those characters and you want to do something for them. The children, the women, problems that they go through, you want to be there and do something for them, and then because you cannot do it, you are depressed, and you are left crying your eyes out. So yeah, sorry, I just got way late there. But Woman is No Man is a book that I'm really looking forward to reading. Next up is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. And this is a book which was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize of 2015, and also shortlisted for the US National Book Awards of 2015. This is a huge book, around 700 pages. Uh, but most of the reviewers say that, this is one book, it is so long, but still at the end of the book, you wish that it was longer and the book did not end. It's a story about love and friendship, and it takes you to the darkest places fiction has ever traveled, and then bounce back and take you to another ride altogether. This is what I read in synopsis. I did not want to read too much about the synopsis, because generally I try to avoid, because sometimes I find that synopses are kind of spoilers, even though they do not give away the ending. Sometimes I just want to discover what the story is about on my own. So that's why I did not, for some books, I do not read the synopsis. I just need to know what this is about, what genre it is, and that's it. Especially when books are shortlisted for prestigious awards like the Man Booker Prize. Next comes The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Uh, this is a non-fiction book. This talks about basically a woman called Henrietta Lacks, whose cervical cancer cells were extracted and then studied throughout generations, and how then when the results of the studies were released, when the questions about consent and ethics in science were raised by the public, and there was this huge argument about race and ethics, etc. But was it just because she was black that they assumed that you don't need a consent of the family? Also, this book is the 2011 winner of the National Academic's Communication Award for Best Creative Work that helps the public understanding of topics in science, engineering, or medicine. Henrietta's cells have been bought and sold by billions, yet she remains virtually unknown, and her family can't afford health insurance. What an irony, right? So I'm really looking forward to this. The only problem that I had with this book is that the publishers, Vayu Education of India, uh, they really chose very bad material for printing. I don't know if you can see it. Eh, it's really bad. It looks like reused paper, and the print is bad, and it looks like a second-hand book that I bought off from uh, I don't know, Avenue Road or something. It's really bad printing. Quality is really bad. So um, I'm really sad that nobody in the review section of Amazon mentioned it, but maybe I should go and do that. So YU Education of India, take note. Please have better quality prints for excellent books like this. Second Hand Time by Svetlana Alexievich. This is the next book in my list. It is winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2015, and it is a non-fiction book which chronicles the story of people who lived during the fall of Soviet Union and 2 decades following that. So this involves teachers, party workers, students, soldiers, traders, housewives, and artists, and how the transition from being a communist nation to a capitalist nation, and how their life was affected. Was it that black and white as the history books or general a narrative tells you? Yeah, this book actually explores whether the stories can be as black and white as the mainstream narratives tells you, that capitalism came into Russia and everything was fine. So this story actually talks about people and how it affected them. The writer herself tells that she considers herself as a writer than a historian, because history tends to eliminate feelings from whatever is written, but she wants to write about, and she wants to concentrate about humans and their feelings during a historical event, or during the aftermath of the historical event. This is a great book for anybody who is interested in Russian history or generally history. The Swedish Academy has an interesting thing to say about this. They say that it's not really a history of events, it's a history of emotions. What she's offering us is really an emotional world. Next one is The Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. Lee Bardugo's first book and the only other book that I have read is The Six of Crows, which I loved. And that was kind of my first YA fantasy, I think. So I really liked it. It was a good fantasy heist novel. You should check out my review of the book up here. And this is actually her first venture into adult fantasy. This book also has got raving reviews, just like Six of Crows. So I'm looking forward to reading this. So Stephen King has blurbed saying that Ninth House is the best fantasy novel I've read in years. And, Bardugo's imaginative reach is brilliant, and this story, full of shocks and twists, is impossible to put down. Great blurb, right? I have got to check this out. I will let you know how I felt about this book in one of the future reviews. An isolated mansion, a chillingly charismatic aristocrat, and a brave socialite who is ready to spill the beans on the ugly secrets. And this is the premise of the gothic horror novel written by Silvia Moreno Garcia called Mexican Gothic. First of all, let me say the cover of the book is just splendid. It's amazing. I love the color combination. If you go to my Bookstagram page, you will see that green, brown, green, and red is the color theme or the aesthetics which I like to follow. So I really like the cover of this book. Cindy from Read with Cindy has made a very good review, and the first line of which goes like this: an atmospheric gothic horror novel that goes the extra mile with featuring women of color as the protagonist and incorporating race, colonialism, and eugenics as part of the horror. And she says that she really enjoyed the fight of the protagonist, and basically she loved the book and she rated it 4, which is a great rating. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. The last book in this list is a book by. The last book in today's list is a book by the great Steven Pinker himself called The Language Instinct: How the Mind Creates Language. I always read one fiction and non-fiction in parallel, and always of course I take more time to finish the non-fiction, but nevertheless I always have a non-fiction running in parallel to a fiction book that I'm reading. So this is a book that I have been wanting to read for such a long time, and finally I ordered it. In this book, Steven Pinker explains how language works, how children learn it, how it changes, how the brain perceives it and analyzes it, etc. So these are the things which really interest me. I'm a huge follower of Noam Chomsky, and I've been reading a lot of book about linguistics from him. So while reading that, somebody said that, okay, why don't you read Steven Pinker's book as well? So from that day onwards, this book, and especially many of his books, were in my list, and this is the first one I decided to read. And definitely I will be doing a review about this. It might not be anytime soon, because like I said, I take a long time to read non-fiction books, but definitely I'll be doing a review about it, and will let you know what I thought about it. So that's the list, guys. Please let me know if you have read any of these books and how you found it, or if you have further recommendations, please put them in the comments below, and I will buy them and do reviews and book hauls in the future for you. So thanks for listening into this long video about my book haul. I'll be back very soon with a new video. Please do like, share, and subscribe so that I am motivated to make more interesting bookish contents for you. Bye.